Our civilization has gone through many important changes, such as the discovery of fire, the development of the wheel, languages, religion, the Industrial Revolution, and technology. Now we are moving into a new age of mind and spirit. The next major event in history will be open contact with life forms from other worlds, taking our position in the family of man in the universe. This event has already started, but as in many historic changes, it is first known only to a few before it becomes known to the masses. The timing of this event is particularly important, since our current civilization is in the beginnings of a transformation into a state of higher consciousness that will forever change the way we live on Earth. Sightings of unidentified flying objects is nothing new. From every continent, from every major city on Earth, every week thousands of people report strange objects in the sky. In most cases, it's a one-time only thing, or there's no camera available, or there's no eyewitnesses. Today, we're reporting on a very special situation that's going on in Miami, Florida. A man named Adrain has been having contacts with human beings from a small cluster of stars called the Pleiades. Actually, contact from the Pleiades is nothing new either. In 1975, a Swiss farmer named Edward Albert Meyer shocked the world when he claimed that he was having contact with extraterrestrials from this little cluster, and he began to take hundreds of beautiful, clear daytime photos that has kept the UFO community arguing for years. And now it's happening again in Miami. Today, the story from Miami, Florida, contact from the Pleiades once again. Miami is located on the southern coast of Florida and represents a major cross-section of the United States. If extraterrestrials were going to visit us here on Earth, mightn't they choose a place like Miami to study us? After all, here it represents major business, there are military bases to have a look at, and of course there are millions of people who come here every year just for recreation. But are the ETs coming here for any of this? No, I don't think so. I think they're coming to Miami because of a man named Adrain. You see, I met Adrain about a year ago in Miami when I was there giving a lecture on my book, The Pleiadian Mission. I'd been following this contact case for years, and that had led me to Switzerland, where I spent a lot of time with Edward Billy Meyer, and wrote the book all about the philosophy of life from the Pleiades that was taught to him. After the lecture, Adrain introduced himself and told me that he'd been having contacts with the ETs for about 29 years. He then invited me to his home, and out on his patio, he proceeded to show me his photo book of all the wonderful photos that he had taken of the Pleiadian craft over the last 20-some years. A lot of the pictures were Polaroids, but it was fascinating to see that someone else had been taking pictures of these off-world crafts. He had nighttime shots, he had daytime shots. Many of the pictures, it turned out, had even been taken by his girlfriend. Adrain says that the Pleiadians normally communicate with him telepathically. First, he might get a sensation in his thoughts that they're around. Then he might hear words in his head, or he might just receive a stream of visions from them. Here in this night shot, he was driving on the freeway north of Miami. He was communicating with him telepathically, and the craft appeared right in front of the car, and he was able to get this shot. I had to ask Adrain if the Pleiadian group that he was in contact with was the same group that Billy Meyer had been in contact with. And he said no, they were not. To his knowledge, all of the Meyer contacts were with a group of Pleiadians from a star system called Tegeta. His contacts, on the other hand, were with a different group from the star system Alcyone. To his knowledge that Meyer had ever had contact with this group, he didn't believe there was any connection at all. Here's a little drawing of what the Pleiades looks like. There are 6 stars which are usually visible to our own eyes in the northern hemisphere in the winter months. The central sun of the Pleiades is called Alcyone. All of the contacts in the past with the Pleiadians have been from Tegeta. Adrain's contacts, on the other hand, are all with a group from Alcyone. He says that there are many star systems in this area that support life, and that the group from Alcyone has been coming here for many years. They maintain bases in South America. They maintain bases in the Gulf of Mexico. Sun's position on this little drawing shows you where the Earth is. The Pleiades is only 400 light years away. This next drawing here from the top shows you that the Pleiades is very close to us, just in the neighborhood. Adrain says that the Pleiadians are not here to solve our problems. They're not here to take over our planet. Actually, they mean us no harm at all. What they are here to do is to try to provide a new level of understanding and higher consciousness so that those of us who are ready can take our own individual steps through not only contacting them, but can begin to understand ways of higher consciousness that may provide a way to create a new future here on Earth that's far more peaceful. In his hometown of Miami, Adrain has begun to teach other people how to meditate, how to discover their own spiritual awareness, and how to come in contact with the Pleiadians themselves. Here in his home in Miami, Adrain has begun a mission of finding those who are ready to advance themselves spiritually and help them contact directly with the Pleiadians. He begins by teaching them meditation. It is not necessary, of course, to adhere to any mystical philosophy or belief system or religion to use meditation for your own benefit. Through meditation, you can learn to bring forth the spiritual powers of telepathy, telekinesis, and time travel. These abilities are inherent in the spirit and can be made accessible to the material self through meditation if you're willing to put in the time and effort. Even though it's popular in the East, it is rapidly gaining in use in Western society. Increasingly, more people are discovering the benefits of being able to communicate with the many different levels of consciousness through meditation. It's a method by which we gain control over our thought processes, develop spiritually, or come in communication with higher life forms such as the Pleiadians. Adrain has been teaching many people in his own meditation classes on how to shut down their material senses and come in contact with the Pleiadians. I spoke with one woman who, after just a few short sessions with him and developing the techniques that he was teaching, began to experience the concepts of receiving visions and ideas. And pretty soon she even found a craft floating right over her home.
This being was with him, and that incredible energy was coming from a flying saucer up on the roof of the house. And since that day, we started, not only me, but all the people in the class started receiving, like, I don't know what to say, is like in a state dream, receiving a lot of information.
One evening at the end of a meditation class, she asked if it might be possible to see a ship. Adrain advised her to just be patient. And on the way home that evening, to her surprise, she looked up out of the car and there was a large craft following along beside her. She believes it was a Pleiadian ship.
A lot of information over there. And the moment that we were leaving, Aida said to him, "When can we see one?" And he says, "Don't be impatient." So when we were coming back, we saw this beautiful big light. It was so near. It wasn't, up there. It was very near. And we got so, for me, it was beautiful because it was the first time that I saw one. But since we are having the classes here, everybody has seen them flying through here.
At this point in time, Adrain thinks it's best that he keep his personal identity here on Earth private to himself. He plans on writing books, making videos, and bringing the teachings that he and the other Pleiadians feel would benefit the people here on Earth. To begin with, they want us to know that our forefathers were also their forefathers. That many times in the past, some of the Pleiadian ancestors came here and populated Earth. They are descendants of a race of people called Lyrians, who are mostly responsible for life here on Earth. Because of this, they look at us like little brothers and sisters and feel kind of a kinship for us. They are human, They are very loving, very advanced. They look just like we do. And on their world, they also have homes, they have children, they have problems with life. They have to evolve just as we do. They're not superhuman. They have to go through all the evolutionary steps just the same as we are. Adrain himself is a Pleiadian. He says that he is here by benefit as what is called a soul transfer. This is a drawing of what he looks like on a Pleiadian world. He says that he is alive 925 years in our future, our linear future right now. That years ago, back in the 50s, he, as Adrain in the future, made an agreement with an Earth spirit who was not embodied at the time. This was done on the astral plane. He made an agreement with this Earth spirit that when the Earth spirit came into body, that he would give that body up and let Adrain take control of it. And that's what has happened. At the age of 10, the Earth spirit gave the body up. Adrain is controlling the body here on Earth with about 10% of his soul force, and that is the life of Adrain. Adrain comes from a planet called Romul, which means the beauty of creation in their language. It's in a solar system they call Quran, which is about 1 light year from the great sun body of Alcyone. The Pleiades, by the way, are in the constellation of Taurus the Bull, which is about 353 light years distance from here on Earth. Adrain says that we could think of him as a time traveler with a great task to accomplish for the people of Earth and for himself. He thinks it's a particularly important time to be here because events in our future are unfolding at a very rapid rate, and this is a most important time for the people of Earth. You see, Earth, our entire solar system, is traveling in a great orbit. It takes 25,860 years to complete. And every time we get to this particular point where we're at right now, the Earth is bombarded by fields of energy from the great central sun of our galaxy. These fields of energy have an effect on all life forms. By speeding energies up, it causes positive things to be more positive, and it also causes negative things to be more negative. We were first affected by this field in 1937. Interesting that right after that, World War II started. For people who are aware of this great change that is happening and who make an effort to open their minds and raise their consciousness, it will be a great time of enlightenment and advancement. For those who refuse to recognize this, it could be a very terrible time of chaos and negativity for them. Adrain has been visiting Earth, he says, in many different time zones. In order to do this, he says he needs the permission of the Pleiadian High Council, and they have granted this so that he may travel, roam in time, to study us and try to be of some benefit to us. Time travel and the ability to access hyperspace, he says, are very important advancements in technology that they guard very well. These great secrets in the cosmos, they say, are very fragile, and if that knowledge should fall into the wrong hands, it could have very cataclysmic effects on things. His mission to Earth actually begins this year in 1995. He feels this mission will carry him through to the year 2000, and during this 5 years, he plans to write his books and do his teachings. Later in the future, he plans to come back at some time to see the fruits of his labors. The most important part of the information, I think, that the Pleiadians are trying to bring us is about creation itself. You see, when they examine us here on Earth, they see a planet with over 5 billion people, a little out of control. And by listening to our thinking, they can see that our biggest problems are that we do not have a good understanding about what life is. We do not understand our role in creation. We do not know very much about the purpose of our lives, why we are here. We're not even aware that there are life forms on other planets throughout the universe. It's very common, he says, that the human form exists everywhere in creation. We are all bonded together. In any contact case, sometimes some very unusual things happen, and this is no exception. The picture you're looking at, this shadow picture, happened one day behind Adrain's home. He was receiving telepathic emissions from what he thought were the Pleiadians, but when he looked out the window, there were 2 very large 8-foot beings in some sort of atmospheric suits behind his home. He grabbed his camera and went outside, When he approached them with his camera in his hand, he tried to communicate with them telepathically but didn't receive anything. He pulled his camera up to take a photo, and as he did, the being somehow forced his hands down to the ground and made him take a picture of the shadow on the ground, as you see here. What's most interesting about this is that the shadow, in the dark areas of the shadow, the picture is quite sharp and clear. And in the very bright areas, it's blurry, which is backward by normal photographic principles. Something quite unusual. He's not sure if the atmospheric suits were to protect them or to protect him. It's quite possible that the beings, whoever they were, might be carrying some sort of space virus in their suits, which could have been harmful to him. This is a picture of his original Polaroid picture that I took, that you can see here. After he finished taking the shot, he turned, the beings disappeared, and he never saw them again. Among the more amazing technologies that the extraterrestrials seem to possess is the ability to move in time in their crafts. Along with this, they seem to also have the ability to see events in time. Inside of the craft, there are screens that can lock onto any kind of energy, spiritual energy or whatever they want to do, and they can kind of fast forward, watching one event lead to another and see events unfold in the future. It's always based on probability because the future is not a fixed thing. Adrain was very concerned because he lives in Miami, which is commonly threatened by hurricanes, and wanted to know how much danger he may be in. One day aboard the craft, they decided to show him. What he saw on the screens was, in the year 1997, that hurricanes would get so bad, they would create tidal waves which would smash against the east coast of the United States, causing terrible damage and a lot of loss of life. He's very concerned about this and wishes to warn people about it if they wish to get out of the area themselves. This photo you're looking at is a very unusual photo. I found 2 or 3 of these in Adrain's photo album. If you look closely, you'll see that you're looking at a craft and you can see clouds through the craft. What's going on here is an effect that Adrain calls power up. When he took this picture, and he took it, by the way, with a Polaroid that has a plastic lens that operates at about 1/30th of a second, as he took the picture, the craft was powering up the field around itself, causing a dematerialization. Otherwise, it was going invisible. There are many accounts from witnesses of UFOs that say that they were able to see a craft and no one else could. And quite often we hear reports from someone who took a picture of craft and they can't believe that no one else around the area saw it. Here we might have some photographic evidence of how this effect actually works. We are told by Adrain that when he's inside of a craft, you can be in there, the craft, when the field is powered up, people around you right below you could not even see you. In effect, what happens is they power the field up around the craft, it's a magnetic field, to a certain frequency that distorts reflected light, and our eyes simply cannot see it. They're bending the light waves, a simple trick apparently for them. The craft then, in effect, could be floating right over a busy freeway or highway. They could be in the craft simply observing us. We could not see them at all. So in this unusual photo, that's what we have here. We have the field power up around the craft, and it's just in certain stages here becoming invisible, so the clouds are just slightly visible through the hull of the ship. This picture was taken on the ground. The craft appears to be probably only at 30, 40 feet, something like that, above his head when he took it. And I think there were 4 different shots taken here at one time. Adrain has had many opportunities to photograph their craft. Quite often they'll come and pick him up, and he will go for a ride with them. He calls it hanging out. He says because he's family, because he is a Pleiadian spirit, they treat him quite differently than they do most contactees. In this shot we're looking at here, he's in a craft, and he looked out the window and noticed there was another craft in front of him, and he grabbed this shot. If you look carefully up in the top left corner there, you can see that there's another ship. That's a large mothership. It is cylinder in shape. It was quite large. He says they flew up into that craft, and as he was hanging out with them that afternoon, And he spent some time aboard that large mothership. Now, what's most unusual about this mothership, it's a little different than we've seen before. Here I've enlarged the picture just a little bit so that you can see it. Most of the Pleiadian pictures that we've seen over the year were all taken by Billy Meyer in Switzerland. When Billy Meyer took a picture of a mothership, it looked quite different than this one. This one seems to be green. It seems to have some sort of red atmospheric condition around the center of it. I don't know if that's caused by heat or whatever. And then on the front of the craft, it has some sort of white dome, sort of a dart-looking situation here. But he says the craft is quite large, several floors high, and they were able to fly right into it and spend some time there. It's very unusual to get a shot of an extraterrestrial craft in this shape. There are many pictures from all over the world of UFOs, but this one's quite uncommon. There are some other very unusual things about this picture, and if you look closely here, down at the bottom of the frame here, we have the classic Pleiadian beam ship. And if you let your eyes follow right above that, there's a white spot that appears on the picture. At first, it wasn't known exactly what this white spot was. Later, Adrain found out that this white spot we're looking at here is the projected image of an ET. He believes that one of the extraterrestrials in the beam ship there projected his own spiritual essence out into space so we could see it and take a picture of it. This was confirmed by the Pleiadians to be true and by a contactee in Puerto Rico who knew this also to be true. These Pleiadian beam ships, by the way, are 21 feet in diameter, carry 3 people, and are capable of interdimensional travel. Here's a closer shot of the craft, and you can see the little antenna on the top. These crafts are very common to the Pleiadians, much like our cars are to us, and this is how they navigate through space. This next craft is quite different. The Pleiadians seem to have many different types of ships that serve different functions. Most of them are manned crafts that we see flying about and gets the occasional UFO photo. Not all of the crafts are manned, however. There are many remote or telemeter type ships that are around the planet all of the time. Hundreds of these are in stations around our planet for monitoring. The last 3 or 4 years, there's been a major UFO flap around the Mexico City area. Actually, from an area from Mexico City stretching southeast to Puebla, there is a large amount of sightings down there that's been going on for several years. On a recent trip down to Mexico City, I found that it was very hard to find anyone who had not seen a UFO hovering in the air at some time or another. This type of craft we're looking at right now, this pie-pan-looking craft, is the type of ship that's most commonly seen down there. This is a remote ship. Some of the remotes are 3 foot in diameter. Some of them go up to about 9 feet in diameter. The larger ones, the 9-footers, do have a small seat in there, so they can be piloted if they want to. In the Mexico City area, there are many people that have taken video of this particular little remote craft down there. Adrain says the Pleiadians have quite a few of these crafts stationed down in that area. Mostly what they're doing is they're monitoring the activity of the volcano in that area. There is a very large volcano called Mount Popocatépetl outside of Puebla, which is very threatening to the people around there, and the Pleiadians are trying to warn people and try to stabilize the volcano. This next shot is a real classic in UFO photos. Down at the bottom, you can see Adrain waiting for a ship to come in. And you can see the craft up in the air there. Here he's pointing it out to me. I'm back down at his home on the patio looking through his photo book again. And he's pointing out to me that while he was waiting for the ship, there were several in the background. There may have been as many as 4 or 5 ships back in the cloud somewhere waiting while the main ship came in to pick him up. It's very unusual for us to have a photo picture of a contact person waiting to be picked up. In this particular case, the event happened in November of 1994 on Thanksgiving Day. Adrain and his girlfriend were telepathically put in touch with the Pleiadians, and Adrain says, well, it is a holiday, why don't you come by and we'll pick us up? And they did. His girlfriend is taking the picture, and you can see him in the foreground waiting for the craft to come in. He says because it was a holiday that he thought he'd like to see his parents, and these are his Pleiadian parents in this particular craft. Another unusual thing here is that his girlfriend was allowed to take the photo. In most contactee cases, the extraterrestrials seldom let the contactees bring anyone with them, and hardly ever do they let someone else take the photos. So this is very unusual indeed. We must remember, too, that in any contact case, that generally the purpose for the photos is for belief, that the extraterrestrials allow the photos on purpose to raise our belief in their existence. By doing this, this stretches our thinking, opens our mind up to the possibility that we are not alone in the universe. Whenever pictures are taken, though, then it is our obligation, of course, to try to figure out what is happening. Are the pictures real? Because there are many UFO photos taken around the world which are not real. In Adrain's case, the majority of his pictures are Polaroids, so the analysis is really quite simple. There's no extra negative to deal with. In many cases, though, he has taken some pictures with a 35mm camera. His photos, unfortunately, have been taken over a several-year period, and he has not chronicled them very well. We have no notes as to actual time and date and location where many of these photos were taken. Adrain was not planning on being a contactee, since he feels that he is here mostly for his own personal growth and experience. So he hasn't done that too well up to now. However, in the future, we hope that that may become more of a reality. We have some negatives of some of the photos, 3 negatives to be exact. The picture you're looking at right now is one of the photos we have an original 35mm negative of. Preliminary investigation of the negative has shown nothing unusual. Edge enhancement testing has been done. They've tested for film grain, tested for overlapping, blue screening techniques, and other things that might show up on the negative. And nothing has been found to show any evidence of a fraud at all. As a matter of fact, just the opposite. By scanning the original negative, it shows things that we cannot see here in the normal print with our eyes. It's very revealing as to how the energy and the heat off of the craft is ionized the air in different colors. Now here's a nice close-up shot of the craft that you can see here. Again, this is a Pleiadian beam ship type. It's 21 feet in diameter. You can see that it's surrounded somewhat by the clouds. The Pleiadians don't want us to know too much about the technology of how these crafts fly. They have said on many times before that they are aware that our technical advances far outweigh our social development, and they're not really interested in helping us out in these areas. They're far more concerned in trying to help us out in our social development. The ships, however, do have 2 propulsion-type systems that they have told us about. Normally, the normal craft in its normal material state, as we're looking at it here, has a light-emitting system by which they convert matter into energy. It's called a beam ship because of that, because of the use of the light. Now, by doing this, the craft is capable of accelerating the speeds well beyond the speed of light. In order to do that, the ship and all of its passengers must be protected by force fields around the craft. This next picture here is most unusual. It's a picture of Adrain's patio. He has lowered the camera down approximately at about the knee high here and taken the picture through the bars on the patio, and you can just barely make out there are 4 or 5 crafts floating out there in the background. This patio is where he commonly receives transmissions from his Pleiadian friends. Here I've taken a picture of one of his copies. Adrain quite often will take a Polaroid and go to a copy place and make a paper copy of it or blow it up, and that's what I've taken a picture of here. The patio, you might say, is his education area. It's very common for him to grab a clipboard and some paper, whatever, and stand out on the patio, and the Pleiadians, if they're in the area, they will be able to transmit ideas and visions to him. Then occasionally they'll allow a photo to be taken. It's quite common also for his girlfriend to take the picture while he's listening to the transmissions. Here she's managed to snap a shot just as there are 6 craft beginning to materialize out in the distance. And you can see that they are all in various stages of materializing there. On the far left, the first 3 crafts appear to be fully materialized, while the 3 on the right side are in various stages of it. He says this is common, that when the crafts power up the field to make themselves invisible, they don't all go out at the same time. They seem to go out in some sort of a series, and they reappear much in the same manner. Now again, the camera's been lowered down close to the bars on the patio, and we can see a very good shot here of 3 of the Pleiadian craft very close to the home. There are 2 different types of variations in view here. The first 2 craft on the right are the newer crafts that have time travel capabilities, and the craft on the left is the older beam ship type, which is interdimensional but does not have time travel capabilities. Out on his patio, when he receives these ideas, most commonly what he receives are visions, a stream of thoughts, a stream of pictures that come into his mind. He then has to translate these visions and ideas and write them down. And then later, through telepathic or even physical contacts, the Pleiadians will help him clear up his translations to make sure that he has understood everything properly. I've been there with him when this has happened, when he receives thoughts and ideas, and I've witnessed the situation myself. Here's a very good shot of the craft, again from the patio, and it looks to be only probably 100, 150 feet from the patio itself. The fascinating part is, here it is in broad daylight again, and no one can see the craft actually but him. Again, as we understand it, they power the field up around the craft. They can control the line of vision and who is able to see the ship and who is not able to see it. I believe that many of the people in Adrain's meditation group are beginning to see the craft and benefit from the exercises that he's given them. Once someone learns meditation and learns how to clear their mind and to shut down all their material senses, this allows them, of course, to shut down all the emotions and so forth which control us. And then we can see things more clearly. Once visions and ideas then are sent to us by the Pleiadians in vision form, we can then experience those things and have the full emotional impact. You see, it's one thing for us to read a book, go to a movie, or watch a video, something like this, but then it's not your own experience. If you can have actual mental contact with the extraterrestrials and receive the information yourself, then it's your own experience. See, once an experience becomes part of you and begins to dictate your day-to-day actions, it becomes the wisdom that contributes to your own spiritual growth. And that travels forward with you from lifetime to lifetime. On my last trip to Miami, some new photos from atop the ship, as we just saw. And here's the normal classic picture that we usually see from the bottom of the craft. It's most common to see this because most UFO pictures are taken from the ground, looking up in the sky at a craft. This craft, again, is the newer variation of the Pleiadian crafts and is capable of time travel, which means it's not only capable of making dimensional shifts and moving from one dimension to the other, but while it's in another dimension, it can control the speed at which its particles are accelerating and move in time. Here's a close-up of the top of the craft. There seems to be some sort of almost glass-looking object on the top. We can see some red colorization and some, looks like windows there. From below the ship now, we're seeing a very good shot here of the magnetic field disturbing the clouds right around the bottom of the ship. So this shot was either taken from inside of the craft that was very close, or from not too far away, either with a zoom lens or a telephoto of some type. Here again is one of the remote crafts. This craft looks to be either like one of the 9-foot or 12-foot variety, and here's a very unusual picture of the remote ship sitting on the ground. Now, this picture was taken just a day or so after Hurricane Andrew, and a close look at the picture, you can see the debris and that the leaves are all blown off the tree and the results of the hurricane that has just passed by. This picture was taken nearby Adrain's home when the Pleiadians came, and he telepathically received a transmission from them that they were nearby, took his camera out, It is a remote craft, but it was manned by one of the Pleiadian ladies that he often has contact with at this time. And he was able to get the picture of this unusual-looking remote craft on the ground. Another of the new photos is this one here, a remarkable shot with two craft clearly visible. It appears that the picture's been taken from some distance up above the planet, looking down on the two ships and the clouds far below. We have two different types of craft here in this picture. The one we're looking at now on the left is the newer variation, which is the time travel type of ship. A very unique picture looking at it from above it to see how this unusual thing is designed. This time travel ship, of course, is one that they use to study our history. They can move actually up and down the timeline and see for themselves how events have actually unfolded. The smaller craft down on the right is the classic beam ship with a little antenna on it. The antenna works similar to our radios, but uses faster than light particles to transmit data so that the message can actually get across space in a matter of time to be useful. We can't see the planet below because of the density of the clouds, but it appears that the ship that he was in was well above it, looking down at an angle to the craft. I asked Adrain if it'd be possible for us to get some video of the Pleiadian craft. The following sections are the different shots that he's been able to get. First thing we're looking at here is some night video taken just south of Miami. His girlfriend was standing in the foreground to give us some reference point. Adrain and his girlfriend were led down to this location telepathically. And when they first got there, there was one blinking craft far out over the water. They're standing on the beach, and the craft appeared to be approximately about a mile out over the water. Once the camera was in position, and he and his girlfriend were ready, suddenly two craft appeared and moved around for some minutes. And then some other craft came in, and here we now have a scene of approximately, it looks like 7 or 8 of them came in. This particular formation is not that unusual and has been seen in many other places around the world. As a matter of fact, down in Mexico, it's quite common at night to see displays similar to this one, where several craft may come in and put on kind of a light show and making different formations. This particular sequence right here, the craft will make pyramid shapes, as we'll see later on. It's actually kind of hard to tell how many craft are in the picture right here. There appears to be perhaps 4 or 5 of them centrally in the center there, with some sort of blinking, orbiting light going on in the middle. It's not clear whether or not that reflecting light is a craft, or perhaps just a reflection in the air of the magnetic fields around the craft combining and somehow causing some sort of light effect. Here's another craft which was high overhead, which formed kind of the peak of the pyramid shape that the craft would soon be in. All told, over the time lapse of this shot, which lasted about 15-20 minutes, it looks to be about 10 or 12 craft were out displaying that night. Time after time, the ETs seem to come to stretch our beliefs. It's most fascinating, too, that he was able to take his girlfriend with him again. I did find out from her that it's apparently quite common for her to go aboard the craft with him and travel with him. And she told me that on a couple of occasions, at any rate, they've been able to travel to other worlds. On one particular occasion, she was taken to a planet. It was an all-water planet. And she asked why they chose this planet, and they told her that there was some sort of connection with her life and the beings on this world. She described the planet saying there was no surface land. The craft went underwater, and they were shown cities underwater where human-type people existed. They were some sort of cross between human and fish, where their skin was rather scaly and they had gills and could breathe. She hasn't quite figured out her connection to these beings, but was told by the ETs for her to try, and if she could solve some of the mystery, that they may take her back there and help her solve the rest of it. So it appears that they have the ability to search our spiritual subconscious somehow and find out in our past where we may have lived other lives or where our spirits may have been. There may be many of us here on Earth who have lived on other worlds, in other forms, in other lifetimes. Now here in kind of a grand finality, there appears to be close to a dozen craft making sort of a pyramid kind of shape out here, and it looks to be about a mile or so out over the water. On a different occasion, Adrain has taken the video camera out again, and 3 craft are overhead. The one on the bottom left will slowly move out and disappear. You can see the high gain here from the video camera as it's straining to draw in available light. This next shot, we can see the Pleiadian craft will come in very quickly and then dash off to the side. I've slowed this down so you can see it a little bit better. And here we can see it in slow motion. See the tail on the craft as it dashes in. Seems to almost dance around playfully. Stops in a position and then zips off again. I had hoped we would get some daytime video. On one occasion, Adrain was home in the shower. He was receiving telepathic transmissions from the Pleiadians that told him they were outside, and if he wanted to get some video, now was a good time. He ran out in the living room, grabbed his video camera, and started taking this video footage. He looked out the window, and there were people outside playing golf, and he had no clothes on, so he told the Pleiadians to wait a minute while he tried to get dressed. And as you can see, he's taking the video through the screen, which is throwing the focus off on the camera. The Pleiadians told him they didn't have time to wait, but they did come back later, and we have this very excellent nighttime video here. Now here the craft at night, the energy field surrounding the craft has it illuminated in a way that seems almost magical. We can see bursts of light and energy coming off the top of the craft. And if you remember from the former daytime shots of the apartments across the way from him, you can get a good sense of what's going on here. The craft appears to be 150 feet away from his patio. What was most interesting about this is when he got the telepathic transmission that they were there, he didn't see the craft outside. And he got his video camera ready, and they told him to go ahead and start the video camera. When he looked out with his naked eye, he could only see little sparkles kind of dancing in the air, but could not see the craft. Once he started the video camera, he was able to see the craft through the video camera only. At the same time he was taking video, there was also some Polaroid shots taken, some still shots of this same craft. You can see the lights in the background emanating from the apartments, which are about 2-3 blocks away. And on the still Polaroid shots, you'll be able to make these out, which were taken at the same time. Now here's one of the Polaroids. You can see the craft in the top. And then down at the bottom, you can see the lights from the apartment buildings that are off to quite a distance. On the left, again, we can see the live video here of the craft. On the right is the Polaroid shot, and you can see the lights from the apartments in the background on both here. It's very amazing that they were able to control the line of sight so no one else was able actually to see this. Now here is an excellent sequence showing the craft actually disappearing. In earlier shots, we saw the field around the craft as it was dematerializing. Here, going frame by frame, we can see the craft actually disappearing right on the tape. The field around the craft, once again, is being powered up. The power up then goes to a certain frequency which reflects the light around it. The craft then just seems to disappear, although it is still there. If you were inside of the craft, you would still be able to see everything around you, but no one could see you. Invisibility. Still again on another night, in another sequence, you can see the craft somewhere off in far off in the distance. If you look to the center telephone pole there, there's cars in the foreground going by occasionally. And there's a craft which at the moment is hidden by the telephone pole, but will now move slowly to the left. They kept the craft some distance on this particular shot, so there would be plenty of images in the foreground. And then again on another night, the craft came back again. And once again, you can see the apartment buildings down at the bottom, just as we did in the shot before. And very high up in the air, we can see the craft up there blinking. Now, on still again a different sequence, it's 10:03 in the evening. He has his video camera set with the timer and the date on. You can see that it was October 20th at 10:03. And he's zoomed his camera back so you can see the distance at which he has taken the picture. The craft is quite a ways out in the distance, probably a half a mile away, and now it's 10:07 on the camera. We have one large craft just over the homes, and another one is slowly moving across in the top of the frame. This contact now started at about 10:03 and will last for almost 50 minutes. Here's a very unusual strobing effect coming off the bottom of the craft. The craft appears to be kind of a normal beam ship type, and we do not know what the strobing effect was for. Perhaps they were just doing it for display to make it stand out. These shots here are taken from Adrain's home on the patio. You could see a couple of cars driving by there, just well over the homes in the distance. He's receiving some telepathic transmissions from him at this point, and just about right in here they've offered him to get into the car, and they're going to move the craft in different parts of the city, allowing him to photograph it in different areas. And now we're watching at 10:14, still on October 20th. He was also told that that particular night they were having contacts in different places on the Earth. Apparently on October 20th, there was something about the magnetic field of the planet itself which facilitated having contacts that evening. He was told that they had 3 other contacts in Cuba that evening. We are not told who it was with or what kind of contacts that they were. But something about the magnetic grid of the planet that particular even facilitated them making the interdimensional change, and so they did. Now watch this one. We're now outside in the car. He's parked his car on the freeway, and they've directed him to drive to different parts of the city. Here the craft is moving over the Miami airport. He stopped alongside of the road, and the craft is, as you can see, is moving slowly right over some buildings over the Miami airport. Now about 10 minutes have passed, and they've directed him to another area. Once again, he's in his car, looking out through the windshield, and the craft is off in some distance. We're now at 10:53 on the same evening. Cars are going by in the foreground, and the craft is off some distance here. We can see it through the trees and behind some sort of signpost. Now the craft is moving, following him down the freeway. He's driving about 50 miles an hour, holding the camera up, trying to get the shot as best he can. And he didn't shoot a very long video segment here. I would imagine that he was probably concerned about having an accident. Now here we've slowed the image down so you can see it actually go behind the trees. It's off to the left of the freeway. It's a short sequence here, only lasting about 10 seconds, but you can see it's moving behind the trees off some distance and going behind known objects. If someone wanted to fake this, it would take quite a job, quite a crew to do this. This would be worthy of a good movie-making crew. They would have to get some helicopters, suspend a very large illuminated object, swing it along at about 50 miles an hour off to the side of the freeway. But then, of course, a lot of people would see it because that would be quite easy to notice. But here, in this unusual sequence, no one saw it but him, and he was able to get this exciting video, almost a car chase down the freeway. Here in slow motion again, we're rocking the back frame by frame, and you can see the ship as it moved behind the tree, behind a known object, and I've moved it back so you can see. So we definitely have a craft, approximately 21 feet in diameter, we're told, and it's off to the left of the freeway. It looks like probably about a block or so, perhaps maybe about 1,000 feet. And it's dancing along the freeway, following the car at about 50 miles an hour. So the Pleiadians apparently are allowing more and more photos. They're allowing more video, better video. They're allowing his girlfriend and other friends to see the craft. So they seem to be stepping things up here in America. The Pleiadians believe that by stimulating the beliefs and consciousness of a few of those of us in America, we can provide the kind of leadership and role modeling that can make a difference in the world. You see, it's one thing for the Pleiadians to come here and help us, but this is our planet. It's time for us to become 100% responsible for ourselves and our world. It is up for us to create the kind of future that we want and the kind of world that we want to live in. When the Pleiadians view our society here on Earth, over 5 billion of us alive right now, what they see is a planet that is out of control. They see a civilization that has no respect for itself or its planet. They don't intend to become involved in our political or our power structure. They are not here to save us. They are not here to change our society. They are providing us a certain measure of education for those that are ready, so that on an individual basis we can raise our own spiritual consciousness. It is hoped that we may find a way to create a new future for ourselves here on Earth through this education. The Pleiadians are not going to do it for us. We are ruining our planet. We are ruining our atmosphere. The Pleiadians for several years have been taking certain key people here on Earth back to their home planets and educating them. There are communities on Pleiadian planets of people from Earth learning. It is expected within about a 20-year time frame that these people may return to Earth and provide a new kind of leadership and role modeling here that may provide a new future for us here on Earth. The greatest event in our history is unfolding before us right now as we come in contact with the family of man throughout the universe. We are fortunate that these visitors from the Pleiades have chosen to gently awaken us to the knowledge of their existence. If they suddenly filled the skies with their spacecraft or landed on the White House lawn, the majority of the people on Earth would probably fall into panic and confusion. Others would worship them or expect them to bring us the long-awaited peace. Governments might fall or lose control as people begin to think of themselves as citizens of Earth rather than of any particular country. Reactions would vary, but one thing is for sure. The Earth would never be the same because the knowledge that they bring about science, life, and philosophy could have a devastating effect on our social, economic, religious, and political structures. Too much information too fast could overwhelm a world that is used to making changes slowly. As our neighbors from another world come to visit, it can also be a wonderful time of discovery. There's the possibility to learn from them, change the way we live on Earth, and create real peace among men. Their knowledge can be used to enlighten our world so that we can resolve the differences that separate us here on Earth and prepare us to fit in with the universal family of man on other worlds. Up to now, the many different races on Earth have been unsuccessfully trying to learn to live together and come to terms with the many different ideologies and social customs. Through contact with the Pleiadians, we are forced to examine ourselves through the revelations of a higher intelligence and hopefully move to a new level of awareness that can facilitate the peaceful coming together of the many nations on Earth. We must become aware that all living things are part of the same creation, that there's an interconnection that binds us all together, something like a network of consciousness that I refer to as spiritual bonding. As we think, our thoughts run across the network and affect all of the life forms that are connected to it. Spiritual growth is the forming of logical thinking that is harmonious with the laws of creation. When you have perceived something correctly, with great clarity of thought, and understood it to the point that it has become part of your life, dictating your actions, the wisdom learned from the experience contributes to your spiritual growth and goes with you from lifetime to lifetime. In order to control your spiritual growth, you must learn to take 100% responsibility for your own actions, thoughts, and deeds. I'd like to take this opportunity to give a special thanks to Adrain for his courage and to the Pleiadians for being concerned enough about a few people on a small blue planet to offer us a helping hand. My name is Randolph Winters. Thanks for your interest.